Joining us now to talk about that race and others from the National Republican Congressional Committee, NRCC, a place that I have more than a passing familiarity with, Ian Pryor. Ian, we thank you for coming along with us here now on America's Forum. Hi, Ian. Can you hear me?
Thanks for having me on today, JD.
Yeah, it's good to have you, and I apologize.
I absolutely can. Can you hear me?
Good. We can hear you fine, sir. New York 22, and look, we understand the NRCC, and when I was an incumbent Republican, the goal of the NRCC is to preserve seats for the Republican Party. That means backing incumbents. So with that in mind, what message does the victory of Hanna send America, if you will?
Well, look, Richard Hanna has been serving in Congress since 2011. He was voted in the 2010 election. And, voters have 4 years of experience with Richard Hanna. And I think that voters, chose to send somebody to Congress that they feel is doing a good job for them. And last night, he proved that he's going to continue to serve in Congress because ultimately there is no Democrat running against Richard Hanna in one of the bigger recruiting fails of Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee Chairman Steve Israel. They did not recruit a Democrat to run in that district. So for all intents and purposes, last night was the general election, and Democrats just handed us that seat on a silver platter.
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Steve Israel, and he has his own problems chairing the DCCC, but also may face a contentious race there in New York's 3rd District. Back to the 22nd Congressional District of New York for a second.
Sure.
I think it's fair to say that the race was closer than many had anticipated. And of course, you saw that Rick Santorum and Sean Hannity weighed in on the side of Claudia Tenney. And on the other hand, a lot of independent PACs weighed in for the incumbent. For example, let's take a listen to one of the ads put out by what's called the Patriot Prosperity PAC.
Claudia Tenney claims she's a Tea Party conservative. She's not. In Albany, Claudia Tenney supported raising local sales taxes 10 times in 1 year. That's out of touch. Claudia Tenney also voted for higher business taxes, higher income taxes, and higher property taxes. She even voted against cutting the death tax. That's wrong. Claudia Tenney, out of touch, wrong for us. Patriot Prosperity PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, again, we make clear, Ian, that's the Patriot Prosperity PAC, an independent group weighing in on behalf of Richard Hanna. But it's also a matter of public record. Again, the NRCC wants to keep incumbents in office. Can you tell us how much money the NRCC spent to keep Hanna in the seat? And did you run ads similar to the one we just saw attacking Claudia Tenney?
No, the NRCC actually didn't spend any money in this primary, and we didn't run any ads. One thing about the 22nd District, I think people that have been up there, up in Utica, know that the Hanna name is well known. It's been well known for several decades, and Richard Hanna is well known in the district. And I think really in these congressional races, that's where the focus is. It's on how the individual member or the individual candidate running really connects with their district, their record of constituent services, and I think really that's what is putting Richard Hanna back in Congress for a 3rd term.
Hanna up in the Utica area, as I recall during my days in Congress, Sherry Bollert, I think, had that seat, the one-time part owner of the Utica Blue Sox baseball team. Anyway, it's interesting to see that Republican area, and Hanna hangs on to that primary. Now, as promised, Ian, other seats of more than casual interest. For example, New York 1, Democrat Tim Bishop is going to have to face Lee Zeldin. Now, Lee, the DCCC, the Democrats went out of their way to try and call Lee Zeldin, a military war veteran, quote, a coward. Is that reflective of just how nervous the Democrats are trying to keep Tim Bishop in that seat in New York 1?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And that attack was appalling. And it wasn't just that attack, but Patriot Majority USA, which is a Democrat super PAC, went out of their way to attack Zeldin as well, because really they did not want to face Lee Zeldin in this primary. Lee Zeldin is the Democrats' worst nightmare and Tim Bishop's worst nightmare in this primary. And even more than that, that was a resounding and impressive victory by Lee Zeldin. So here's someone who is coming out of the primary with all the momentum in the world. And then you've got Tim Bishop, who, you know, he has legal problems, let's put it mildly. The Department of Justice has investigated him for his pay-to-play fireworks scheme. House Ethics has investigated him. They found substantial reason to believe he may have violated federal law. And this is also somebody who said Obamacare is a damn good idea. And in fact, if you go to Tim Bishop's congressional website, you still have the lie of the year on his website, that if you like your health care plan and you like your doctor, you can keep it. So this is a race to watch. We think this is an excellent pickup opportunity, that Lee Zeldin is going to be the next congressman in the 1st District.
We promised you, Ian, that we would return to New York 3, and Steve Israel, who in a strange twist of fate, his parents were my constituents in Arizona back when I was serving in Congress. Steve, representing New York 3, the chairman of the Democrat Congressional Campaign Committee, or DCCC, he's got to face Grant Lally. Now, Grant faced Stephen Labate in a pretty tough primary. I think the final take on that was Lally winning 50 to 49%. When it comes to New York 3, can Republicans mend fences to retire Steve Israel?
You know, certainly that is a district that people overlook, but the bottom line, it is a swing district. And while Steve Israel is out there campaigning for, you know, Democrat candidates all over the country, you know, it remains to be seen how that impacts his job back at home. So that's certainly, he's going to have to watch himself at home to make sure that he is able to continue his role in Congress and not just as the chair of the DCCC. So he should not take his race lightly, and if he does, he might find himself looking for work come January.
There is one primary on the Democratic side, as we see Grant Lally's website that people in New York 3 and elsewhere can visit if they are so inclined. Let me move to the city. Let me move specifically to the seat in Harlem. Charlie Rangel took that seat away from Adam Clayton Powell back when I was in high school in the mid-1970s. But Charlie Rangel is in a primary now where apparently, I don't know if a recount is underway. What are you hearing about Rangel? Will he hang on as the nominee against his state legislator opponent?
Well, you know, Charlie Rangel is going to do everything he can to hang on to that seat. But I think what's interesting here is you listen to the Democrats spin out there, and they like to take these individual districts throughout the country and try and project that on the party as a whole. Well, what does it say about the Democrat Party when the face of the New York delegation is Charlie Rangel, a 43-year entrenched incumbent who, let's be honest, has had better luck getting censured in Congress over the past few years than he has in getting laws passed? Is that the future of their party?
Ian Pryor, you ask a question that is more than rhetorical. Charlie Rangel, my colleague on the Ways and Means Committee, and after a change in majority status became chairman of that committee, only having to resign that seat because of some questions about paying taxes, taxes owed in the Dominican Republic. Ian Pryor, as always, we appreciate you weighing in, and as these congressional races heat up, we will be looking to talk to you some more. Thanks very much for checking in from Washington, D.C. today.
Thanks a lot, JD.
All right, so you got the word from Ian prior to these races in November. We'd love to get the word from you. Tweet us your comments at Newsmax TV, #America's Forum.